So let us recall for some time what we did in the previous lecture. So we discussed about the silt control devices. In this particular diagram, we considered the location of the silt control devices to be provided. And we discussed that there are three types of silt control devices with device symbol 1 to be provided just before the diversion of water. If it is diverted from river to canal, then it was symboled as device 1. And device 3 is analogous position of similar type of diversion, but this diversion is from canal to canal. So functionally, device 1 and 3, they are of same type. They are provided just before the diversion, but they are differentiated on account of the water channel from which the water is being diverted. If the channel from which the water is diverted is a river, then it is device number 1, which is called silt excluder. And if it is diverted from canal to canal, then it is termed as device number 3, which where we have a number of devices, and these devices we are going to discuss today. The second type, device symbol 2, that is provided after the water has diverted into the canal already. So after some distance on the downstream side of the head regulator, we provide this second device just to remove the silt which has already entered into this canal. So the silt content which has managed to enter into the canal through this diversion, that is removed through device number 2, and this device is called silt ejector because it is ejecting out the silt. So this device is also known as silt extractor. Okay, so you should not be confused. Silt excluder is device number 1, and silt ejector or silt extractor is device number 2. So device number 2 is provided a little downstream of the head regulator. So here also, whatever silt content is here, we try to avoid this entry into this further canal. And if it has entered into this canal somehow, if we want to remove it, then device 2 is to be installed again. So it's not that every time after diversion we need to install silt ejector. It is need based. If it is required to remove the silt content from this, then this device is to be provided. Otherwise, just here if you have provided one, then there is no need further. Generally, no silt enters from the side, but still there are chances that along with the rainwater which is directly entering into this canal network from the immediate banks, so some silt load may get incorporated into it. And if that is considerable, then you can always provide the second, that is silt ejector, just to remove out the silt. So today we are going to discuss this third type in parent canal. And if you just recall what were the silt excluder and silt ejector, so this is what we have already done in previous 2 lectures. Silt laden particles or silt laden lower layers of the water, they entered into these undertunnels of the silt excluder, and they find its way to the downstream side of the river if the undersluice gates are raised and some passage is provided for this silt laden water to go to the downstream side. Upper layers which are sediment free, they find their way towards this head regulator and they get diverted into this canal. So once this water has entered into the canal, it will flow in the canal under gravity. And if some silt is there in suspension into this water, so that will manage to enter into this off-taking channel through this head regulator. And this forms the necessity of providing the second type of device, that is called silt ejector or silt extractor. This is the diagram of silt excluder, which is generally available in the books. And it is a 2-dimensional thing. As a civil engineer, you must be knowing that if this is the top view and if you take a cross section of any structure and view it, So these arrowheads, they tell us that you have to view from right to left. So if you cut it from here and you view from right to left, but then what you will see is this. So this is the diagram. These are the under tunnels. This is the sill of the head regulator, which is seen over here in this top view. So likewise, so this is the engineering drawing of this structure, in which dimensions are not mentioned, but the overall shape and configuration of this device that is presented. Second device was to be provided into canals, in which we have a regular trapezoidal section. So these channels are also called prismatic channels because the same cross section is maintained over a considerable length. Cross section area at this point and at this point they are same. So we are having certain depth of water. So this top blue surface is basically the water surface, which is little below this ambient ground, adjoining ground. So banks are a little above the water surface. So the difference in these levels of the bank and the water, that is called the freeboard. So the silt which has entered into the canal, how to remove that? So we considered this animation that we need to excavate the bed of the canal and maintain a lower floor for some distance. And in that depressed floor, that is to be taken to one side, either of the banks. So depending upon the conducive means condition, so we will be deciding whether this is to be taken to the right hand side or to the left hand side. So this is the depressed floor. The same level is maintained over here by cutting this bank also. And then we provide a series of curved walls, which basically are the diaphragm walls. Very thin walls are there, and their height is such that their top point, the top of these walls is little above this bed level of the canal. Bottom point is, of course, it is decided by this depressed floor. So by whatever quantity, by whatever depth you are depressing this floor, so from that point, these walls will start and they will go a little above the canal's bed level. Then it will be further provided with the smaller vein diaphragm wall, so that there is no deposition of the silt anywhere and the silt finds its way continuously towards these channels. Now this is covered with a diaphragm slab which is very thin, and the same diaphragm wall goes to this side also. The entire structure which was excavated, that is now covered with this concrete slab. It is a diaphragm slab only. Thereafter, what we see that silt laden lower layers, they enter below this diaphragm, this slab, and they enter into these tunnels. Because now the top also has been covered, bottom is confined by the depressed floor, the top portion is confined by this slab, and intermediate, there are some passages which are confined by these diaphragm walls. So water which has entered into it, that encounters these rectangular tunnels only, which their cross section keeps on reducing, so their velocity will keep on increasing because it is a continuous flow. Now it is pressing upon it and it is finding its way to the outside. And if these bottom layers are going into it and they are finding the turn over here, they will be going just perpendicular to the canal's flow and they will find their way on the outer side. So this is the passage that we have provided. But whether it will go to the downstream, this exit side or not, that will be governed by some regulating structure only. So these blue lines indicated that the silt laden water, which is on the upper layers or intermediate layers, they will have no passage to go to the underside of this slab. So they will just go undeviated or undiverted or untrapped straight to the downstream side of the canal. Now this diverted water into these tunnels, that is controlled by these gates. If these gates are closed, then this water inside this will be stagnant only. So only little water will be able to enter, and once the entire portion is filled with water, then no further water will be able to enter into these these tunnels. So whatever silt is already there, that will be deposited into this portion. But when we open it, so these flow lines will find the passage to the outer side, and obviously this flow will be maintained. Now the deposited silt will be washed out because the velocity is keeping on increasing. It's a conduit flow, just like a pipe. Instead of a circular pipe, it is a rectangular pipe. So this pipe is there, diameter or the size is reducing over here. This pipe is having some cross section, the size is reducing in this direction. Ultimately, these two pipes are merging into one with some reduced cross section area. So the velocity will keep on increasing so that the silt is not deposited over here. We do not allow the silt to get deposited. So by frequently operating these gates, so we can decide, we can keep this underside of this slab silt free. So this is just basically the working. So after that, we can fill up the excavated bank, maintain the side slope as well as maintain the bank also. And in the same fashion, we will be now ready with this structure called the silt ejector. So this is the diagram that is available in the books. You have already considered it. So in last lecture, we also discussed the practical situation where the silt silt ejector was provided. So we took the example of Hathnikund Barrage, that is in Yamunanagar district of state Haryana. So where we have a barrage which is constructed on Yamuna River, and this barrage basically feeds two states. On left hand side, what is visible on your screen, on the left hand side, it is Western Yamuna Canal, and on the right hand side, it is Eastern Yamuna Canal. The Western Yamuna Canal basically feeds Haryana, and the Eastern Yamuna Canal goes to Uttar Pradesh. So because the water is being diverted on both the sides, so this is an example of the barrage where the divide wall is not only provided on this side, but because we are diverting on the other side also, so here also we will be providing a divide wall. So there are two divide walls provided into this barrage. So in the intermediate portion, as we discussed about the layout of barrage, in the intermediate portion, that is from one divide wall to the other divide wall, this much portion is in the form of weir, and on this side we are providing the under sluices, on this side we are providing again the under sluices, and so this section and this section is basically the barrage section. You have already discussed the difference between a weir and a barrage section. So here we discussed that into this diverted water, into this canal, we have almost immediately diverted it further for power generation. Here we have a powerhouse, and this water which is diverted over here, because it is to be used for power generation, it will be running the turbine blades. So we need silt-free water. So immediately over after diverting into the power canal, so somewhere here we have provided the silt ejector. So this portion is here we have provided a silt ejector, and somewhere here we are providing the passage to that ejected water, which is joining back this canal only. So this is why we need to know that on what side we can divert it. On this side, we can divert it nearly to this canal. On this side, if you divert it, you can carry this water and you can join it to the river itself. So both ways it was possible. So here only the passage is to be provided a bit longer, but I don't know why they have provided it back into this canal, because this excluded silt will again enter into this canal. Though this canal is used for just for a safety purpose when additional water is to be diverted from the river Yamuna. So these two things carry this water simultaneously. So this will be washed out. So most of the time, this portion of the canal does not get water because it is feeding the water to this powerhouse. Only in case of shutdown of the powerhouse or for some repair works or during the floods, this portion gets water. And this is the zoomed portion where this powerhouse is visible, and we have seen this silt ejector, and it is functioning over here. So you can see this passage also, and some these lines also, which are indicating the deposition of the silt into this portion. So some formation is like that. It is showing the stagnant water. And I just want to show you something. So this is basically a Google map view. I have opened it on my laptop only. So this is the Hathni Kund barrage, the same Hathni Kund barrage which is feeding on this side Western Yamuna Canal, and on the right hand side it is Eastern Yamuna Canal, and this downstream side it is basically the Yamuna River. So Yamuna Nadi is written over here. And on this side, what you have seen is immediate diversion. Here we have provided with the silt excluder somewhere, and is this portion visible to you on your screens?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So you see this water is coming over here, and you see this type of diversion. I told you that this type of diversion you will be able to identify in the map view that there must be some powerhouse. So I'm just actuating the satellite view. It will take some time only. See now. So this is the enlarged view. I have just zoomed it in. So this water in the power canal is coming, and it finds its way somewhere here into the power canal. After running the turbines, it is discharged to the downstream side. So this is converted, means it is converged, and this is diverted. So this is basically a draft channel. The water after running the turbines is released over here. So water level difference on both the sides is considerable. So whatever is the pressure, means water level difference, that will create the head. So low head powerhouses are generally provided on this canal. So if it is producing the electricity, so water is being fed onto this powerhouse only, so it will find its way to the downstream side over here. But if it is closed, then here we have provided the gates, which is providing the back, just a sort of bypass. So here also, if you just open these gates and shut down the gates over here, then this water will not go into this powerhouse. Rather, it will find a passage from this side. So that's why at every location of this powerhouse, you will also find a bypass. That's why this water channel will be diverted into two parts, and they will be joining back again. And into this view, terrain view, let us move a little downstream side. So this channel is going somewhere here. So here they have provided some mixing also. And somewhere here, if I just show you, what you see over here is it is written Tajewala Dam. So it is basically not a dam, but just a small portion which is left over here, because it is the abandoned Tajewala headworks. Like we had this Hathni Kund barrage on the upstream side. This is Hathni Kund barrage. Here we had Tajewala headworks on the same river. And at this point, the weir wall was provided just like a new weir wall over here. And the water was diverted from this portion. So earlier, the Western Yamuna Canal was diverted from this point only and finding its way to this side. And Eastern Yamuna Canal, weir was on this side. So Eastern Yamuna Canal was going from this side. So this was the location where the Tajewala headworks was provided. Now This has completed its design life and it has been removed almost for last 20 years. And as a replacement of this headwork, this new Hathnikund barrage was constructed in year 1999. So from here, this canal is diverted and it is joining the same earlier canal. And in between, they have made the provision of this powerhouse as well. So that's why what you see over here is some excavated canal is already there. And now the new excavated canal is joining over here. Since we have diverted this water to generate power, so this is also finding its way somewhere here. So that's why one canal, second canal, and this third canal, they are intersecting somewhere over here. And if you move on to the downstream side again, this was one powerhouse. And if you move to the downstream side, now somewhere here you find the similar water pattern, similar pattern over here. So as if this is the bypass. Let us see the satellite view again. Yes, we find this powerhouse in the similar manner. So this is the bypass. Gates are provided over here. Water goes to this powerhouse. After running the turbine, it is discharged onto this downstream side. Otherwise, it is allowed to go through this bypass. So in this manner, you are able to locate many powerhouses on the same canal. So it is basically the utilization of the topography of this area, because in this much portion, this much length of the canal, we are finding lot of elevation difference because it is a hilly terrain, just foothills only. So here we can have the difference in the water elevation somewhere. So we can provide with these powerhouses. So this is also a powerhouse. Again, what you see over here is a powerhouse building. Its shadow is visible over here. So you can just imagine the height of this building, because a lot of other activities are also to be carried out. And you can see this power grid also somewhere here. So like this, you can always locate where these canals are going and what are the irrigation structures or some other structures which are installed over here. Now, in this view only, let me introduce some more things of this canal network, which you will ultimately study in the sequent lectures. See, canal water is diverted over here. So let us zoom it. If you see this diversion, this water is stopped by putting these gates. You can see these piers also. So gates are provided. So this is called a regulator. Just excuse me. Okay, discussing it back. So this is a regulator which is provided across this canal so as to stop this water on the upstream side. Water level is increased and this is diverted into this off-taking channel. So here also we are providing a regulator. So you can see these some piers over here. So this road network is always provided because whenever we are providing some weir or some barrage or some gates, so we have to provide the foundation work. Just extending these piers a little above, we can carry a road over it. So we can always mix these projects of road as well as the hydraulic structures. So what you see over here is a pair of regulators. One regulator is provided on the parent canal and other regulator is provided on the head of the off-taking canal. So there are two canals. One is parent canal over here. This is the off-taking canal. And what else you see over here? If I just zoom it in, it will not be clearly visible, but what you see over here is some zigzag portion, some blocks, as if the concrete blocks are provided in the staggered way. So these are also you are going to discuss in the sequent lectures. I hope these blocks are visible to you. They are rectangular concrete blocks They are provided in 2 rows and both the rows are staggered. So it's, if one block is here and next is here, in the other row, the position of block is in between these two. So this is the staggered way of providing these blocks. So these are friction blocks when the water is released onto the downstream side through these gates, because the water level on this side is higher and on this side it is lower. So it will have a high pressure movement on this side. So a lot of turbulence will be there. So it should not erode out the bed or the banks. So that's why we need to provide some friction devices over here. You move on to this a little downstream side where this silt ejector is ejecting the silt basically. And if you just make it enlarge, so without any road, so some crest wall is visible and similar kind of friction blocks are also visible over here. And if you just further zoom it in, some blocks are seen in this portion also. And what else you see is this cross section is reduced somewhere here to make it rectangular cross section over here. And again, it is maintained back to the trapezoidal channel. This white strip, the thickness of this white strip is indicating the side slope. And over here, what you see is that this thickness is reducing to just a point. As if you view from the top, this side slope is made vertical over here. Similarly, on this side, it is again trapezoidal. So trapezoidal to vertical and then back to trapezoidal section. So here it will be completely trapezoidal cross section and here it will be rectangular section. Side slopes will become vertical on both the sides and again to trapezoidal section. So this is a canal fall which is provided. So this structure will also be discussed in the lecture, in this subject only. So similar kind of other structures are also there. Here we are using this particular structure for carrying the road also. This is again another fall, I think, and some road is being carried over it. So these are the things which we can always see on the Google Maps if you want to learn about these rivers and the canal networks and what type of structures are basically provided. I hope this thing is clear. So coming back to our presentation. See. So now we'll be discussing about the type 3 devices. So in the last lecture, we also discussed about the parent and off-taking canal. The canal from which the water is diverted, that is called parent canal, and the canal to which the water is fed or it is diverted, it is called the off-taking canal. And we discussed these 3 points regarding the off-taking canal, that they are designed to draw sediment proportional to its flow, and it is done to maintain the non-siltation of both the canals, either parent canal or the off-taking canal. Both should remain unsilted. So silt should not get deposited in any of these canals. So it should keep moving with the water. And for achieving these 3 types of structures have been suggested, and we discussed the names as King's vanes, Gibbs groin wall, and skimming platform. So now we will be discussing these structures one by one. So let us discuss about the King's vanes first. So these are the thin, vertical, curved, parallel walled structures. See, so many attributes of these vanes are. One attribute is that these are thin walls. These are all walled structures. So it is a thin structure. So vane, and this S makes it plural. So every vane is a thin structure and all the vanes are thin walled. So these are thin, vertical, curved, and parallel walls. So it is a set of parallel walls which are very thin. They are made vertical and they are not straight, they are curved. So constructed of plain or reinforced concrete. So any of these concretes can be used. Generally, we do not provide unprotected or unreinforced concrete because these are very thin. Sometimes it is not possible to incorporate the reinforcement. So that's why even the plain concrete is also workable. So if we have a little bit of larger size, we can always think of providing the reinforcement also in it. So this concrete on the floor of the parent canal. So where it is provided on the parent canal, just upstream of the off-taking canal. Now here you have to keep it in mind that these are the device type 3, which are just analogous to silt excluder, the device type 1 that we discussed in the last lecture. And it is to be provided before the head regulator or before the water is diverted into the canal. So this is just upstream of the off-taking canal. So this is the location. The height of the vanes may be about 1/4 to 1/3 of the depth of flow in the parent canal. So whatever water is flowing in the parent canal, you just see the depth and height of these vanes, because they are to be provided on the floor of the parent canal. So from the floor, they should be extending upward up to height of about 1/4 to 1/3. So 25% to 33% of the flow depth is to be covered by these thin walled structures called King's vanes. The thickness of the vanes should be as small as possible, because they are going to obstruct the flow otherwise. So their thickness should be as small as possible, and both the end should be made sharp. The spacing of the vanes may be kept about 1.5 times the vane height. So in this particular red ink sentence, where we decided about the height of the vanes, it is to be kept 1/4 to 1/3 of the depth of flow in the parent canal. So whatever height of vanes we decide, spacing between the vanes is generally kept about 1.5 times the vane height. So it is not exactly 1.5 times, it is written about. So a little bit variation is allowed. So that is to be decided, but generally it is kept equal to 1.5 times the vane height. So whatever height of the vane is selected, 1.5 times that is the spacing between them. And here the spacing means the clear spacing. And if the vanes are actually very thin, so clear spacing or the center to center effective spacing, they are considered as one and the same thing. So this is the reason that we are writing here about. If you consider them center to center spacing or the clear spacing between them, so it does not vary much, so that is of the order of 1.5 times the vane height. And the last sentence about it is, to minimize silting tendency, the pitched floor on which the vanes are built should be about 0.15 meter above the normal bed of the parent canal. See, these are very thin walls. We cannot provide directly on the canal bed. They are to be secured at the bottom. They cannot be constructed on the loose sandy soil or any just, you can say, unprotected bed. So we need to provide a strong floor for their resting. So generally that floor is provided in the form of pitched floor on which these vanes are being rested. So that should be about 0.15 meter above the normal bed. So where we are providing, this floor should be 0.15 meter, means 15 centimeters above the normal normal bed of the parent canal. So this is the ground where we have excavated this parent canal. So this portion is the bed level. This and this portion are the side slopes. So side slopes are not made in the same shade, because on one side you can say the ambient light will illuminate it more. It is most commonly seen if you see it practically. So this is the parent canal. So this bed is basically, this portion is basically the bed of the canal. And if you want to divert water onto the off-taking channel, so this is also to be excavated in this section. So this bed level and this bed level, they are shown same as of now. So if this is the direction of flow, parent canal, water should be diverted into this off-taking canal by some means. And what are the King's veins? In this fashion, we provide in this portion these walls. So these are very thin walls. They are curved walls. They are all vertical and they are all made parallel. So these are the attributes that you have discussed in the previous slide in very first point. These are thin, vertical, and parallel and curved. So these are all curved walls, and these are set of walls. This one wall is called one vein, and multiple walls means they are called veins. So this S makes it plural. So this is basically a series of walls. So what happens is when we allow this flow into this structure, into this canal network, so it is flowing into this parent canal also. It is being diverted into this off-taking channel also. So obviously the blue portion, which is indicating the width of water, the water surface here, so that is more than the width of the bed but less than the top width of the canal. So it indicates the presence of water over here. Now we assume that water is flowing from bottom to top of your screen and from left to right into this off-taking channel also. So what is happening? These yellow arrows. So as per our conventions of this lecture, yellow arrows are indicating the bottom layers which are full of, or you can say which are having high concentration of the sediment or the silt. So in this portion, the silt laden water is going almost straight into this parent canal. But in the other portion, which are near to this off-taking channel, because they are bottom layers only, so they will find their way here, and these veins will divert them a little away, and ultimately they will be joining back the same channel again. So these veins will simply avoid the diversion of these bottom layers into this off-taking channel. And depending upon the height, the bottom depth of the overall flow will be trapped into this, and they will find their way to the downstream side of the parent canal only. These blue arrows, which are silt-free water, in this portion they are going straight, but in this portion they are finding their way towards the off-taking canal. So this will avoid the entry of silt into this off-taking channel over here, because in this portion, which is basically to be diverted towards the off-taking channel, bottom and top layers are segregated. So bottom layers are segregated by these veins, and top layers are diverted without any obstruction. So this is basically the working of King's veins. So this is the diagram, 3D view of these King's veins, which is taken from the NPTEL site. So I have written the reference over here that it is taken from the NPTEL site. It is not created by me. So here the parent canal is there, and this is a diversion, so smooth entry towards this off-taking canal. So water is going there also. And what you can see is a series of thin walls of some height. And what else you see is a floor. This is the floor on which these walls are resting. So this floor is having some thickness, and in the text you have seen that this thickness should be around 15 centimeters, so that this floor is provided such that this top of this floor is 15 centimeters above the ambient bed of this canal. So this is the diagram which is available in the books. So some more you can say details are added into it. If you see these entry points from where these lower layers of the flowing water will be entering, so these are made sharp over here so that a entry into this portion should be smooth without any obstruction. So, and ultimately what you will see that these veins should at least extend beyond a dotted line. So this is an imaginary line, dotted line, with the slope 2 along the parent canal and 1 along the off-take channel. So because water is moving from bottom to the top of your screen, so this is the off-taking channel, these two corner points of the upstream side or the head of this offtake channel, this is the point which is towards the upstream side of the parent canal, and this is towards the downstream side of the parent canal. So this point is taken as reference, and from this point towards the upstream of parent canal, one dotted line is extended at the slope 2:1. Here 2 is along the flow, along the parent canal, and 1 is perpendicular to that. And this line is extended into this parent canal. And these veins should sufficiently go beyond this line, because if you don't take it considerably to beyond this line, then there are chances that these diverted bottom layers which are diverted over here, they find their way back. They can get turned into this offtake channel also. So the bottom layers which are trapped by these veins, they should be kept trapped and they should be released only after some safe distance, after which the chances of their turning and coming back into this offtake channel, they are minimized. Now, the second structure is called Gibbs groin wall. So if you see the meaning of groin in irrigation 1, if you have heard of it, groin is also called spur, S-P-U-R, spur. So groin wall is a wall which is extending from one bank of a water channel, but it does not reach the opposite bank. And groin or spur is different from a weir. So weir wall is basically obstruction which is extending from one bank of the water channel, and it extends up to the opposite bank also. Okay, so weir is an obstruction in the form of a wall which is provided on the full width of the channel. But groin or spur is a similar obstruction which is provided for a partial width of the channel. So it starts from one bank, but it does not reach the opposite bank. So it is just in the form of an obstruction or intrusion into the water channel only. So these are curved vertical walls. These are curved walls and vertical walls which project out into the parent canal from the downstream abutment of the off-taking canal. Okay, just listen, just see to it carefully. These are curved and vertical walls, just like the veins that we have considered previously, but here they are not thin walled and they are not parallel because it is only one wall. So wherever we provide these groin walls are provided in the form of curved vertical walls. So which project out into the parent canal. So its projection is into the parent canal. So obviously it will be extending from one bank of the parent canal and it will be running towards the other bank of the parent canal, but it will not reach the other bank. Okay, so it is projected into the parent canal. From where it is started? It is starting from the downstream abutment of the off-taking channel. It is the same point from where the reference dotted line of this previous slide, yes, that was taken. So here, this is the parent channel. So from one bank to the other, this groin wall is to be provided. So if this is the bank, it will be extending into the parent canal. If this is the bank, it will be extending into the parent canal in this way. So it is written that it should start from the downstream abutment. So this is the offtake channel. Here and here, both sides, we are going to provide the abutments for the structure. So this is the downstream abutment, which is abutment is of the off-taking channel. So from this point, this will be extended. So whatever we are talking of the Gibbs groin wall, so that groin wall has to start from here and it has to extend into the parent canal. So from this point in this direction, this wall will be running. So this is the meaning of this first line, that these are curved vertical walls which are projected out into the parent canal from the downstream abutment of taking canal. Now the next point says the groin wall is provided in such a way that it divides the discharge of the parent canal in proportion of the discharge requirements of the off-taking canal with respect to the flow in the downstream parent canal. If I tell you in simple words, the parent canal, which is carrying certain quantity of water, it is to be divided into two parts now. One part will be going to the downstream of the parent canal, and other part will be going on into the off-taking canal. So these two waters, these two water quantities will form a proportion. In what proportion? Basically, the original parent canal discharge is to be divided. So after this diversion, the flow will be diverted into, it will be divided into two components. One will be going to the downstream of the parent canal, and other will be diverted into the off-taking canal. So in these two proportions, basically we are going to divide this flow or the discharge of the parent canal. So whatever is the proportion of division, length of the groin wall is provided in that sense only. So it is provided in such a way that this groin wall basically divides the oncoming flow into two components. So it performs a similar function of the divide wall, but it is not provided along the flow, rather it is provided perpendicular to the flow. So you will see the diagram there after this slide. Next point is the groin wall extends upstream into the parent canal to cover 3/4 to full width of the offtake. Now, don't get confused with this full width. The groin wall extends upstream into the parent canal. Its extension is in parent canal, but its length or the coverage is equal to that reference is taken with the offtake canal. So up to 3/4 to full width of the offtake canal, whatever is the width of offtake canal, either full width or up to 3/4 of the width, this is the amount by which this groin wall will be extending into the parent canal. So the parent canal is not fully covered or fully obstructed by the groin wall. The proportional distribution of flow into the off-taking canal is expected to divert proportional amount of sediment also. So this is the last point, which is basically making it conducive, or you can say the appropriate device under this silt control devices. So Gibbs groin wall, its function is mainly to divide the flow into two parts, depending upon the proportion in which this oncoming water is to be divided. So it is expected that it will also divide the silt content of the water proportionally. Okay, so the proportional distribution of flow into the off-taking canal is expected to divert proportional amount of sediment also, or the silt content also. In the similar type of, you can say these are the parent canal and off-take canals, and where we are providing. So we are providing the groin wall in this fashion. Okay, you consider it as a single wall, and please don't pay attention to this rectangular component over here, sharp edge over here. It is basically rounded. So I have just made it with the help of two curved straight lines only, which are rectangular on these two sides. So it is just the limitation of the drawing tool that I have used. Otherwise, it is a straight wall, a thick wall is here, and it is curved somewhere here in this fashion. So whatever water is coming into this parent canal, so that will be divided by this water, because this much portion is obstructed by this groin wall. It will find its way towards the off-taking canal, and this portion of the flow will not find any obstruction, so that will go straight. So if you make it little bit of lesser, you can say, intrusion into the parent canal or more intrusion, so it will accordingly divide this flow proportionately into two components. Now, if you are allowing this water to flow into it, silt laden water over here, and straight means silt free water also, that is going into this. Similarly, silt laden water also gets diverted into this portion, and clear water is also diverted into this portion. So that's why it is basically dividing not only the water, but the silt content also in the same proportion. Now, if it is just dividing the overall flow and the silt content in the same proportion, most of the time this is what is expected or it is required into these canal networks. But if due to some reasons, if you find that this offtake canal should get lesser quantity of silt, sorry. If lesser quantity of silt is expected into this canal, then what we can do is this wall is provided with some holes at the bottom. Some rectangular holes of sufficient size, they are provided in the bottom portion of this wall so that the bottom layers are not obstructed much and they find their way to the downstream side as well. So somewhere they will be obstructed where the hole is not visible, not available, because passage will be provided in the form of holes. So holes are only intermittently available, not to this entire length of this groin wall. So that's why most of the bottom layers will find their way to the downstream side into the parent canal itself. Only the upper layers which are hitting this groin wall but not finding any passage, so they will be diverted into the offtake channel. So this way, by providing sufficient number of rectangular holes in the bottom portion of this wall, you can reduce the silt content into this off-taking channel. So this is again the 3D view taken from NPTEL. So this is the parent canal and this is the groin wall, and it is dividing this into two components. One component is going into this off-taking channel, and another component is going into the downstream of the parent canal. So this is the view, the diagram that is available in the books. So this is only one bank shown. So this is the side slope, which is basically converted into vertical somewhere here, and ultimately back to the trapezoidal section. Okay, so thereafter this parent canal is divided. This groin wall is diverting this water into it, and you see the holes over here. So holes are provided in this groin wall so as to allow the lower layers to go to the downstream side. Other bank is not visible in this diagram, and in the right hand side of this portion, the flow in this parent channel that will be going undeviated, unobstructed to the downstream side. Now moving on to the third device, which is called skimming platform. So it is an RCC slab. So this is a platform basically. Its name is skimming platform. So two types of skimming platforms are there in the available literature. So I'll be discussing both of them. So it is an RCC slab resting on low height piers on the bed of the parent canal and in front of the off-taking channel or off-taking canal. So the first line that indicates that it is the RCC slab which is resting on low height piers. So we have to provide piers also of low height, and above those piers we have to provide a slab which is RCC slab, and the entire thing is resting on the bed of the parent canal, and it is provided and it is placed in front of the off-taking canal. So this location is same as that of you can say the King's vanes or the silt excluder of the diversion headwork. So this arrangement creates a kind of low tunnels at the bed of the parent canal. See, if you just recall the silt excluder, there also a slab was there, RCC slab. It was resting on low height piers, very thin diaphragm walls were there. So similar kind of structure is provided here also, and it provides this arrangement creates the kind of low tunnel at the bed of the parent canal. Further, it allows the sediment moving along its bed to pass through downstream, because water will be entering into these tunnels only, and this upper slab will be preventing the lower layers to go out, come out and get diverted. You will see the diagram in the next slide. So it will basically segregate the lower and the upper layers, just like the silt excluder. The floor of the off-taking canal is above the level of the platform, thus only takes suspended sediment load. Okay, the sediment load which is coming in suspension, that will be diverted, and whatever is there in the lower layers or in pulsating form in the canals itself, so that will not be taken. A skimming platform arrangement is suitable where the parent channel is deep, about 2 meters or more. Okay, and the offtake is comparatively small, and the tunnel should be at least 0.6 meters deep. So up to 60 centimeters, at least this much depth of tunnels is to be provided. Now, if you see in the similar diagrams over here, what we see is we make a floor, concrete floor over here. Then these are the thin walls, which are they are calling them as piers over here. So very long piers, but thin. Thickness should be as small as possible because it should be obstructing lesser and lesser to the parent canal flow. So whatever flow is there, if the thickness is kept higher, obviously this will be obstructing the flow into this parent canal. So their thickness is to be kept smaller, and parallel to the parent canal, a series of piers is to be provided, and these piers are of the depth around 0.6 meters or so, and they are further covered by another slab. What you see over here is that another slab is coming over here. So deliberately I have kept this slab a little bit transparent so that you can see the presence of these piers underneath. So you are allowing this water. What you see over here is the bottom layers in throughout the canal. The brightness of this arrow is same throughout. The brightness of this arrow is same throughout. But what you see, brightness of this arrow up to this point it is brighter. Here it has got faded, and again it is brighter. That means it is going from underside of this tunnel. So this top slab is dividing the upper layers and the bottom layers. So bottom layers are finding their way through these tunnels only. So once this flow is entering into these tunnels, so this top slab is preventing it to come out and get diverted into the offtake channel. So that's why it is functioning just similar to the silt excluder. There also you had the under tunnels, and the top slab was preventing the water of the bottom floor or the bottom layers to get diverted, and it was released on the downstream side of the river. But here it is a canal to canal diversion, so it is released on the downstream side of the parent canal. So this is a 3D view, again taken from the NPTEL. Here what you see over here is the depth of this channel is considerably large as compared to the previous diagrams that you have seen. So it is generally provided where the depth in the parent canal is of the order of 2 meters. Means deep canals are there. So 2 meters is very, you can say, sufficiently high depth in the canals. So if the parent canal is having this water depth of 2 meters or so, then the lower 0.6 meters is dedicated to these tunnels. So this is called the skimming platform. So this is the platform that is basically dividing two layers. So bottom layers are finding their way from underside of these tunnels and going to the downstream side. The upper layers, which are sediment free, they will be diverting into the offtake channel. So this is basically the function of skimming platform. This is another view which is available in the books or the literature. So these are made sharp on the upper side, and this is the slab. Now, there is another skimming platform which is called cantilever skimming platform. So in some books, you will find that skimming platform is explained in the form of cantilever skimming platform. But here, there is nothing in the form of cantilever. So it is just a skimming platform. But now if you consider the cantilever skimming platform, so it is provided in the fashion. We provide a crest over here, which is just before the offtake canal. So this is the crest wall of the head regulator also. So wherever we are providing this crest, depending upon this, we are going to provide this cantilever skimming platform. So let us zoom it. So this is the zoomed portion of this crest wall. And what we do over here is we are providing a concrete cover onto it. Now, if you just see the concrete cover, this is covering, just see again, this is the crest wall and it is covering it. And on both the sides, if you see on the right hand side here, this is also a concrete layer. So this concrete layer is coming from this side, then onto this slopey side, then top of the crest, then again the slopey side, and again going horizontal. But if you see the width of this concrete cover, that is equal to the width of channel. So it is provided at the bed of the off-taking channel. So it is on the right hand side, it is at the bed of the channel going up to the top of the crest. But on this side, if you see, I have made deliberately a little bit transparent so that you can see. So this portion which is visible, this portion of the crest wall, this portion of the bank, this portion of the this bank of the channel. So bottom width is from this point to this point, but overall width of this slab is from this to this. So it is higher. So that means there is some opening or some space below this wall, this slab. So that's why this slab acts as a cantilever, because it is extending from this point to this side and in the form of a cantilever only. That's why it is called a cantilever skimming platform. So what happens is, when the water is allowed, the bottom layers, which are silt laden, they are moving in this fashion. So in this portion, what you see, they are going straight, but here in this portion, it is going from the underside of this slab. So this is a cantilever slab, which is called cantilever skimming platform, and this is dividing the bottom layer and the top layer. Another thing is that when the water is diverted into this, generally what happens if you don't provide this slab, if only the crest wall is provided, so that crest wall itself avoids the entry of the lower layers. But with passage of time, from this point, the water which is diverting into it, the bottom layers will not be able to go to that side because of the crest wall. So they will find their way again to the parent channel only. But with the passage of time, some silt will be deposited over here and there will be a ramp formed in this fashion. So deposition of silt will create a ramp over here. That's why with the passage of time, even the silt laden water in the bottom layer also, that will be able to climb the ramp easily and go to the downstream side of the offtake channel. So provision of this kind of skimming platform will avoid the formation of that ramp, because whatever silt is divided over here, deposited over here underside of this platform, that will be before it allows a ramp to climb on to the bottom layers. So these bottom layers are ultimately washing it out also under this extended portion of this slab. So in the underside of this slab, there will be no deposition of the sediment. Even if it is depositing there, the flow will continuously keep it washing. So that ramp formation will never be complete. So if from this point, the ramp up to this point is not formed, the bottom layers will not be able to climb up that ramp and enter into this off-taking channel. So that process of making the ramp is interrupted continuously by washing it out. So that ramp formation will never be complete. So this cantilever skimming platform avoids the formation of the ramp and continuously segregates the bottom layers of the flow, and thus it avoids the entry of silt into the off-taking channel. So this is the diagram which is available in the books for such kind of cantilever skimming platform. So here we have the crest wall and this is the concrete slab cover. What you can see is this is the cross section of the channel, parent canal, and here we have the off-taking channel. So this cross section is trapezoidal somewhere here, and it is extending into this cross section. So this is the portion where it will not be possible to deposit the silt. So flow in this portion is running perpendicular to the screen. So it will keep on washing any sediment which is deposited in this portion. So this is the last slide. So now let us have